Hey guys and welcome to my channel. This is part 1 of What If Naruto Was the Left-Hand Man of the Pirate King. Before we begin, don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and also go and support the author, link in description. Where am I? Who am I? A teenage boy laid down on a beach in tatters among the remains of a shipwreck. His eyes unfocused. Every breath he took was labored. The sun shining brightly in the sky beat down on his pitiful form without mercy. The pale blonde locks on his head laid pitifully on his head, and his skin stuck against his bones. He looked like an half-dead corpse. Although he was by the ocean, his lips was cracked and dry. His voice sounded hoarse. Right now he wanted nothing more than to have a drink of fresh water. Moreover, he couldn't remember how long he had been on this island or where he was. But one thing he was certain of was that the ship he was on was caught in middle of a storm and capsized. He somehow managed to make it to this island, but he didn't know if anyone else managed to survive. He spent his days searching the island for anything that could help him. At first he was able to survive off of some berries and fruits that he managed to salvage, but after a few days they quickly ran out, leaving him to starve. During those few days, he hadn't caught any sight of a navy ship or any ships for that matter. In fact, at this point he'd even go with a pirate ship as long as he could leave this damn island. Just when he was about to give up, he heard a loud noise coming from the sea. It took all his strength just to turn his neck to look to the sea. There what he saw was a ship making its way towards the island. He shed tears of joy when he saw the ship, knowing that his prayer was finally answered. But when he saw the Jolly Roger on the ship, his mood immediately soured. He completely forgot his words about boarding a pirate ship. However, his reaction wasn't surprising at all. After all, pirates were known to be terrible people who also leaves a path of chaos and destruction wherever they went. The Marines were actively searching for them, while placing a bounty on their heads. So the more dangerous a pirate was, the more bounty would be placed in their head. Although he wanted to run away and hide, his body refused to obey him. So he could only watch helplessly as the ship approached the island, all the while praying that the pirates would at least show him mercy. After what felt like an eternity to him, the ship finally reached the beach. It hasn't even decked yet before a figure jumped off the ship and landed on the beach. Finally, land, ha ha ha. The youthful man laughed heartily and did a light spin around. You shouldn't go off running on your own, a blonde-haired man with wavy hair said as he walked down the tramp. He is of relatively tall height with a very muscular build and tan skin. Two of his most distinguishing traits are his round glasses and facial hair, which is arranged embattled across his lower jaw. He turned to the other man only to see staring off in another direction. Hey Rayleigh, what is that? The man asked as he pointed at a certain direction. Rayleigh turned to the direction only to see a figure lying on their back on the beach while staring at them like a mouse caught in a trap. Is that a person? Rayleigh exclaimed in surprise. This island was almost world apart from the last one they were on. And from what he could see, it seemed that a ship wrecked, but why was there only one survival? Is he dead? The man asked as he stalked closer to the person. The teenager flinched when he saw the pirate walking towards him. He tried to play dead, but the pirate already noticed him. The man crouched before him with a huge smile on his face. His figure blocked out the sun and casted a shade on his face. Now that he was closer, he could see the person's features along with the straw hat on his head. He looked to be in his mid to late 20s with shoulder-length wavy black hair and a wide grin on his face. The man laughed and said, "You look strong. Others might not have been able to have survived this long without food and water. How about it? Join my crew." Excuse me, he wanted to shout out in shock, but his voice only came out hoarse, making him look pitiful. It even hurt him just to say those few words. Rayleigh did a double take when he heard his partner asking an half-dead teenager to join their pirate crew. Are you serious about this, Roger? Yes, I've already decided. I'm taking him with us. Roger laughed as he placed the teen on his shoulder and started walking towards the ship, not giving him a chance to voice his complaint. Let me do, down. The teenage tried resisting, but his body was too frail and weak to do so. Rayleigh sighed as he watched Roger carry the kid on deck. Once they were on the ship, Roger dropped the kid on a wooden chair before walking off somewhere. The kid used the opportunity to look around the shop for an opportunity to escape before he noticed something odd. The ship was void of life. Wasn't this a pirate ship? Where are the crew members? Surprised, Rayleigh asked as he walked up to him with a glass of water. Despite him wanting to do otherwise, his curiosity got the better of him and he nodded his head. Rayleigh sat down and handed him the glass of water, which he greedily drank without bothering to check for poison. Rayleigh smiled at this and said, "Well, it's nothing surprising, we are just a newly formed pirate group. We recently entered the Grand Line a few days ago." "What?" The kid did a double take. Now that he was hydrated, his voice was getting clearer. But that wasn't surprising, seeing as the crew had only 2 members. Any pirate who has been on the Grand Line for a long time would have amassed a lot of crew members. At first he didn't think much about it, since there are a lot of pirates out there that even he didn't recognize. However, when he thought back to the bad state the ship was in, he asked, "Then why was the ship in such a bad state?" "Well, my captain likes to pick fights, so we got into one all too often." Rayleigh laughed before jabbing a thumb at the Jolly Roger flapping in the wind and said, "Also, nobody will take us seriously with a Jolly Roger like that." The teenager looked at the Jolly Roger to see a skull winking with a silly grin on its face. Immediately he saw it, he burst into laughter. He only thought of one word when he saw the Jolly Roger: flamboyant. Was he trying to wink the Marines into submission? The 2 of them shared a laugh before Rayleigh asked, "So what's your name, kid, and what were you doing out here?" "Me." The teen pointed at himself with a quizzical look and hurriedly said in a panicked voice, "I'm not from a rich family or any of that." Rayleigh laughed at his words and said, "We are not that kind of pirates. I was just wondering if we could help you get home." "Oh." The blonde teen nodded. After contemplating for a while he said, "I'm Naruto. Can't remember my last name. The last thing I remembered was the shipwreck before waking up on this shore." "Is that so?" Rayleigh rubbed in beard in thought. "What about your home?" "Can't remember." Naruto shook his head. Rayleigh was about to sigh a word before a voice interrupted. "I see you 2 are getting to know each other." Naruto and Rayleigh turned around to see Roger holding a plate of food while walking toward them with that same silly grin on his face. "Dig in," Roger said as he placed the food on the table in front of Naruto before taking a seat beside Rayleigh. Naruto wanted to reject the food, but his stomach threatened him with a loud growl, forcing him to hurriedly devour the food. Roger and Rayleigh watched him eat with smiles on their faces. "So how was it?" Roger asked after Naruto finished licking the plate clean. "Delicious," Naruto said with a satisfied expression on his face. Who knew pirates could cook so well? "That's great to hear. So why don't you join my crew?" Roger offered again, causing Rayleigh to deadpan. "Why do you want me on your crew? I'm just a dying stranger that you saved." "No." Roger shook his head and said seriously. "You survived on your own, long enough for us to find you. That alone speaks much about your willpower." "He's right about that. This island is a long way from the last one. I won't know that it exists if I didn't see it with my own eyes. Imagine dying at sea on an island nobody knows about." Rayleigh laughed as he cleaned up the table. "So what do you say, kid?" Roger asked as he held out his hand to Naruto. "Die at sea with nobody ever knowing your name? Or come turn the world upside down with me?" Naruto stared at the hand in deep thought. Never would he have thought he'd be offered a deal to become a pirate just to continue living. After a few minutes of contemplating, Naruto shook Roger's hand before looking him in the eyes. "Before I join, I'd like to know one thing. What do I call you, Captain?" Roger's grin widened when he heard that question. With a joyful laugh he said, "Call me Roger. Gall D. Roger." The vessel looked worse for wear, and the only thing keeping it from falling apart was the second-rate repair done on it. "This wasn't what I was expecting," Naruto whined as he laid over the ship railing, staring into the deep blue sea with a bored expression. It's been a few days since he joined Roger and Rayleigh on their adventure. Thanks to Rayleigh and Roger being generous enough to share their food supplies with him, he was able to recover considerably. However, for those past few days they have been drifting aimlessly across the oceans. During those time they have encountered 2 different storms. One of them was even a cyclone, which they somehow managed to survive. Neither did I. I thought pirating was supposed to be fun, Roger complained from beside Naruto as the two of them stared into the water with moody expressions. However, he knew he couldn't blame them. Even he didn't know that his navigational skills would be completely useless in the Grand Line. Naruto slowly raised his hand and straightforwardly asked, "Can I resign?" "It's too late for that." Roger immediately slapped his hand back before he even finished his sentence, causing Naruto to flinch. He then looked at Naruto with a grin that made him realize that he was done for. There was no way Roger was gonna let him leave his crew now. Dimwits. Rayleigh shook his head at them before returning his gaze back to the telescope. This was what he has been dealing with for the past few days. A few hours went by with nothing major happening except for Naruto and Roger ceaselessly asking him if he caught sight of an island yet. Before they could pester him for the 1,000th time, he finally caught sight of a black dot on the telescope. "I think I found an island," Rayleigh said to the two people lying moodily on the deck. The two of them turned their heads towards him so fast that he was afraid their necks would break. "Where?" Naruto and Roger immediately brightened up and ran up to Rayleigh, who pointed at a dark mass on the far reach of the sea. "Then what are we waiting for? Full speed ahead," Roger ordered energically, causing Rayleigh to shake his head at his eagerness to take charge now. "What a fast mood change," Rayleigh whistled in amusement. He couldn't say the same Roger that was lying depressed on the ground anymore. "Just how thick is your skin, Captain?" However, contrary to their thoughts about their captain, they promptly ran to their stations. With a destination in sight, it didn't take long for the ship to get there. The people at the harbor were going about their day when they saw a small boat at sea heading to the harbor. At first they were curious about the ship, but after taking a good look at the ship they completely ignored it. "Land at last. And look, Rayleigh, there are people here." Roger laughed excitedly when he saw the crowd people moving about the harbor. The last island they had been to was completely deserted and only had one half-dead person on it, so it didn't count. Naruto also realized the meaning behind Roger's words, which caused him to glare at Roger, who feigned ignorance. All right, just remember what we talked about. Prioritize gathering information first before anything else. We'll meet back here when we are each done." "Got it." Roger grabbed Roger's collar and said before he could run off, emphasizing each words. Aye. Roger nodded with a sheepish grin. "Understood," Naruto said. Right now he was just happy to be on land again. "Good. Remember not to draw any attention," Rayleigh reminded them one last time before the three of them split up in 3 different directions. "It's kinda peaceful around here," Naruto mused as he walked around the town. When they first got here he saw a few pirate ships at the harbor and had expected it to be quite chaotic, but he experienced otherwise. That should do it. After walking around the town for half an hour he was able to find out some useful information. Now he just needed to rendezvous with Rayleigh and Roger. "Naruto, you are here. Where's Roger?" Rayleigh asked immediately he saw Naruto arriving at the harbor. The island wasn't too big, so it was easy to gather information. So what was taking Roger so long? "I don't know. Maybe he's just running late or he missed his way around the island. Some places are really confusing." Naruto shrugged. He felt like Rayleigh was worrying too much. Yes, their captain was a handful, but Rayleigh makes it feel like if he let Roger out of his sight for too long something bad was going to happen. Right at that moment the two of them heard a loud commotion behind them, prompting them to turn around. "What the hell is going on?" Naruto groaned as he looked for the cause of the commotion. However, when he finally found the cause, his eyes nearly popped out when he saw a familiar figure being chased by a group of marine. "Is that Roger?" Naruto shouted as he turned to Rayleigh, who could only shake his head with a tired sigh. He already foresees something like this happening. "Oh, for goodness sake. Come on, Naruto," Rayleigh said as he grabbed Naruto's hand and turned around to run. Wait, they might not have noticed us. We'll be giving ourselves away if we run now." Naruto quickly tried to reason, but as soon as he said that, Roger also noticed them and started waving happily to them. "Hey, Naruto, Rayleigh. Those two must be his acquaintance. Get them," the marine in the lead informed when he saw Roger waving at 2 strangers. They immediately raised their weapons and prepared to catch them too. Okay, let's run, Naruto deadpanned when he saw Roger's action and the Marines that were no eyeing them. You think? Rayleigh scoffed before the two of them ran off into the town with Roger and the Marines behind them. The group ran into a crowded marketplace, causing chaos as they pushed and pulled through the crowds, causing people to shout in protest. Some unlucky souls were even thrown at the Marines to slow them down. Sorry, Roger laughed as he pushed a fat man out of the way and into a cabbage stall. He looked back to see a group of Marine chasing behind them with their swords and pistol. Stop them, the Marines shouted as they chased after them. What the hell, Roger? What did you do to get the Marines on your tail? Naruto shouted as he ran alongside Rayleigh and Roger, who had caught up with them somewhere during their run. He was already starting to regret his decision as their captain was more trouble than he was worth. Seriously, Roger, I thought I told you to be discreet. Why did you go up to them and declare that you were a pirate? Moreover, you pulled us into your mess, Rayleigh glared at his captain, who replied with a sheepish laugh. I only wanted to liven things up since our adventures have been boring lately. Nobody sent you, Naruto and Rayleigh screamed at him. We already talked about this, Roger. We are still new to the Grand Line, so we need to gather sufficient information before acting. Sorry. The three of them continued to run from the Marines for a couple of minutes before losing them in an empty alley. Seriously, Captain, stop doing that, Naruto groaned after catching his breath. He couldn't remember the last time he had ran that fast. Maybe it was because he couldn't remember most things. Sorry, Roger apologized, but his laugh said otherwise. Is it really too late to resign now? Naruto nearly shed tears since he knew that Roger never planned on stopping anytime soon. Rayleigh also realized this, could respond with a defeated sigh and said, anyways, I was a bar back there. We should be able to gather sufficient information there before we leave this island. Okay. Roger nodded and was about to walk ahead, but Rayleigh quickly grabbed his shirt and pulled him back. With a scolding tone he said to Roger, I'll take the lead this time, Roger. You just follow. Got it? Hi. Roger nodded obediently. Naruto's sweat dropped at this scene. But it wasn't new to him. Whenever Roger stepped out of line, Rayleigh would always be the first to put him back in line. Sometimes he can't help but wonder if Rayleigh was the real captain and Roger was just a figurehead. The three of them walked into a small bar and found a quiet corner to sit. They ordered 3 glasses of rum. Since Naruto was already 19 years of age, Rayleigh had no issue with it. While the three of them sipped on their drinks, they listened to the conversations taking place in the bar. Hey, did you guys hear? I heard a famous pirate group was captured by a rookie Marine. Are you for real? Yes, apparently it's gonna be all over the news soon. What kind of rookie Marine could be such a thing? I don't know, but I'll have to be on the lookout for that guy then. I don't want to be the next pirate he arrests. It seems there is a lot going on that we don't know about, Naruto said with a thin smile. He was seriously starting to doubt his decision. If a rookie Marine could do that, then what chance do they have against a veteran? He sounds tough, but we are not weak either, Roger said with a raised fist. Is it really too late to resign now? Naruto nearly shed tears since he knew that Roger never planned on stopping anytime soon. Rayleigh also realized this, could respond with a defeated sigh and said, apart from that, we still need money to fix our ship and buy new supplies. We are almost out of supplies. Rayleigh listed out. He had a little headache just thinking about it. Looks like we have to salvage. So what did you guys learn? Apparently a lot of pirates have been entering the Grand Line from the other seas. Just a few days ago a huge fight occurred among 2 of those pirates, resulting in the Marines' interference. Apart from that, this town is just a stop point for pirates that just entered the Grand Line. Naruto informed before exhaling. The information he had was too little. Nothing about the major goings of the Grand Line, just done minor details. What about you, Roger? Rayleigh turned to the troublemaker. Although the information Naruto revealed was too little, it was enough for him to know that there was going to be a lot of competition for resources among pirates. Roger took a big gulp of wine from his cup, his expression turning serious, which was uncharacteristic of him as he said, Well, it's nothing major, but the folks on this island are calling the Grand Line a pirate graveyard. Not just that, but there are actually 7 different routes that a person can follow in the Grand Line. And to navigate this islands we need a compass called a log pose, which I have never seen before. What? Roger shouted at Rayleigh and Naruto when he saw them staring at him in shock and disbelief. Are you really Roger? Naruto asked while looking at Roger like he had just seen a ghost. Don't try me, brat. A tick mark grew on Roger's head as he punched on the top of Naruto's head, causing him to yelp. I guess you really do have your moments. Not you too, Rayleigh. You were supposed to be my first mate. As the 3 of them were jesting and laughing, a group of people walked into the bar and approached their table. The whole bar fell silent when they saw the group of men walking into the bar carrying guns and swords on their person. Some people even hurried left the bar while others remained seated, wanting to see what was about to happen. Hey, you! The pirate in the lead smashed his foot onto their table, causing their drinks to spill over. The whole table fell into silence. Can we help you? Rayleigh asked as he looked at the burly man. Can you help me? Can you help me? One of my pirate crew member was captured by the Marines because of the stunt that idiot pulled, the man shouted as he pointed accusing at Roger, whose face was shadowed by his straw hat. Well, that's unfortunate, but there's nothing we can do about it, Rayleigh said dryly. He was about to return to his conversation when a hand roughly grabbed his shoulder. Is there something else? Rayleigh asked in a monotone voice as he glared at the owner of the offending hand. What's with that attitude? Do you even know who we are? The thug asked as he pointed a gun at Rayleigh. We are the Gorge Pirates with a total bounty of 3 berries. And nobody messes with us. Definitely not some no-named pirates like you guys. Hey Rayleigh. Roger suddenly spoke up for the first time, drawing everyone's attention. He turned to Rayleigh and asked, is it okay for me to deal with these guys? The whole bar fell dead quiet when they heard Roger's words. Everybody froze still in shock. They were already in a very precarious situation, but Roger just pushed them off the edge. The Gorge pirate crew were known to be vicious and cruel. Although they were not some big-named pirate crew, they are still famous in the early half of the Grand Lines. However, they soon realized that Roger wasn't the only crazy one in the group. Is it okay if I tap in as well? Naruto asked, although he knew that Roger was an idiot and a very reckless person. That doesn't mean that he would sit still and watch someone insult his friends. Especially not after all that Roger and Rayleigh have done for him. The whole bar turned to Rayleigh hoping he would be the voice of reason, but their hope was completely shattered. Not at all. I was planning on doing the same anyway, Rayleigh said seriously. He was the only one allowed to scold Roger, so there was no way he'd let an outsider badmouth his captain. The whole bar immediately fell into a commotion when they heard him. They are all madmen. They must be mentally retarded. Well, it's too late for them now. Their journey has ended before it even began. The pirate group that had been in shock immediately became enraged when they heard their words. How dare you die? The pirate immediately reached for his sword. However, before he could, a fist smashed into his face and sent him crashing into the group behind him. The whole bar went quiet again. A look of horror appeared on their faces when they saw the pirate's unconscious form. They all turned to the blonde youth standing in the pirate's previous location with his arm outstretched. The pirates were the first to get over their shocks. They immediately grabbed their weapons and charged at the group of 3. How dare you? That was our squad leader. You are so dead now. I can't believe you beat me to the punch. I was just about to smack that guy. Roger laughed as he stood up from his seat. If Naruto hadn't been so fast to attack, he would have been the one to hit the guy. Sorry, I just couldn't stand to listen to any more of his rubbish, Naruto said wryly. Well, it's all right. Let's just get this over with, Rayleigh said as he unsheathed his saber. Got it. Naruto and Roger nodded before the 3 of them attacked the group. The inhabitants of the bar the ensuing battle with shock and disbelief. And just as they expected, the fight didn't last long. But the outcome went completely different to expectation. Shock, fear, horror and a variety of emotions colored their faces. They stared at the 3 men standing in the midst of bodies of the bloodied and defeated pirates. none of them daring to make a move. They felt like they had just seen a nightmare. The fight that had taken place was nothing more than a one-sided beatdown. The pirates were completely powerless and defenseless against their attacks. The three of them were like monsters. Especially the blonde-haired kid. Even with his frail-looking body, he was still strong enough to knock out a fully grown man. They watched in silence as the group of three nonchalantly walked out of the bar, leaving a group of groaning bodies behind. It was only after they left that the bar broke out in a loud commotion. Who the hell were those guys? I don't know, but this is definitely big news. They are all in for a shock. Meanwhile, while the bar was in chaos over their identities, the said people were walking leisure through town. That's 5,000 berries, Naruto said joyfully to Rayleigh after counting the berries he looted from the pirates. Stop complaining. You are the reason we got into that fight in the first place, Rayleigh said. Though he said that he was actually glad that they did. Thanks to that they were able to gain enough money for them to buy some supplies. Yes, but we really luck out this time, Roger said as he brought out an object for Rayleigh and Naruto to see. Is that a log loose? I heard some people gossiping about it. They said it's used to navigate the vast seas of the Grand Line, Naruto exclaimed when he saw the compass Roger was holding. The reason they have been moving aimlessly at sea was because they didn't have a log pose. But with this they would have a better time navigating the sea. I believe the navigator, Naruto said as he grabbed it from Roger before tossing the log pose to Rayleigh. Thanks. Now let's get going. We still have a long way to go. With sufficient berries and a log pose, the three of them quickly stocked up on the necessary supplies for their journey and immediately left the island. However, not long after they left, news of their actions had already spread. I seriously never saw that one coming, Naruto said as he gawked at the newspaper in Rayleigh's hands alongside an equally shocked Roger. It has been 3 days since they left the beginner's island. With the berries they were able to buy enough food to last a while and fix up their ship. Things had been looking good, and this few days has been quite peaceful for them. However, this morning Rayleigh had bought a newspaper from a passing newspaper seagull. And what they saw came as a complete shock to all of them. After that, Rayleigh immediately called for a meeting. I thought he was kidding when he said that their pirate crew was a famous one, Rayleigh sighed when he saw a headline in the newspaper that reads, "The infamous Gorge Pirates defeated by an unknown pirate crew with just 3 members. I can't believe we got famous overnight just from beating a group of weak pirates. Will we be given bounties now?" Roger laughed as he started imagining how he'd look like on a wanted poster. You are taking this too lightly, Roger. With the Marines now aware of us, it's going to be difficult operating undercover while building up our crew. With just the 3 of us, it's only a matter of time before we get caught, Rayleigh explained. He needed Roger to know just how severe their situation was. Having a wanted poster doesn't necessarily mean good thing. At this point it just gives them unwanted attention. Naruto and Roger fell into silence when they heard Rayleigh's words. As the saying goes, the wind howls against the highest peak. Or in a pirate's case, fame without power only brings destruction. You are right, Rayleigh. With just the 3 of us it's going to be difficult if not impossible to resist capture once the Marines start coming after us. I think it's about time we start looking for more crew members, Roger said after contemplating for a while. As much as I support that idea, finding trustworthy people in the Grand Line is not going to be an easy task, Naruto said. Rayleigh also nodded, expressing that he agreed with his words. Naruto is right, Roger. There's no need to be hasty. No, we can't afford to wait any longer. We'll cross that bridge when we get there, Roger said seriously. Naruto and Rayleigh exchanged looks before shrugging. If you say so. Roger grinned when he got the two to agree with him before he turned to Rayleigh and asked, "How much longer until we get to the next island?" "Since it's my first time using the log pose, I can only make a rough guess of about a day or 2, Rayleigh said, completely uncertain since he was still new to the whole log pose of a thing. However, Roger nodded and said, "Then let's not waste any more time. We'll go full speed ahead." "Aye aye, Captain." Naruto gave a mock bow before they all returned to their stations. However, After 2 days of sailing they didn't come into contact with any island. They had been worried since their food supply was running low. Moreover, the ship had been damaged to the point that it was already leaking in some places. Fortunately, on the 3rd day they finally came into contact with an island. "Is this for real?" Naruto gasped in awe. The island before them was a huge one, and on it are several rock mountains. The shape of the mountains along with the graves give the mountains the appearance of giant cacti. Moreover, there was a river flowing through the island allowing ships to dock inland. Even Rayleigh and Roger were amazed by this scene. This was the first time they were seeing something like this. After a while of sailing across the river, they finally found a dock to leave their ship. "That took longer than expected," Naruto said when he got off the ship. Rayleigh's estimate had been off by a whole day. It was kinda scary since their boat already started leaking. If they had spent another day at sea, they might end up swimming with fishes. "The first order of business should be getting ourselves a new ship before we drown in our sleeps. With the amount of berries we have left, we can't afford to buy a new ship. But we can at least steal one," Rayleigh said. With the amount of damage their ship had taken, it was already a miracle that it was still afloat. "Also, while we are at it, can we do something about that Jolly Roger?" Naruto asked as he pointed at the sorry excuse of a Jolly Roger waving above their ship. "What's wrong with it?" Roger asked. It had taken all his artistic talent, however little it was, to draw that flag. It was his pride and joy. "Sorry to say, Roger, but that Jolly Roger is an insult to pirates all around the world. And I don't plan on sailing under a Jolly Roger that looks like a kid's drawing," Naruto replies seriously. "If they were going to do this, then they have to do it right." "He is right, Roger. Nobody would want to join a crew with a Jolly Roger like that," Rayleigh added. He had been meaning to get rid of it since the day he first set his eyes on it. "But, you guys did," Roger said with an innocent smile. However, his innocent remark only earned him the ire of his crewmates. "Not everybody is like us." Naruto and Rayleigh hit him on the head. All right, Roger eventually relented. Those 2 punches hurt a lot. He could still feel his vision twirling. After hearing him agree, Rayleigh nodded and said, "Good, now let's go." The 3 of them unhurriedly left the dock and walked into the town on the island. However, they noticed something odd as they walked on the street. For some reason everyone was sneaking glances at them, and were trying not to make it look obvious. Some were even openly staring at them while whispering among themselves. "Roger, did you do something while we weren't looking?" Rayleigh immediately turned to the troublemaker of their group. "I didn't do anything. I haven't left the group since we arrived on this island," Roger said with a perplexed look. He was just as surprised as the others. "I don't think Roger was responsible this time, Rayleigh. Look." Naruto pointed at a wall of a building not far to their left. Roger and Rayleigh turned to the indicated wall, and what they saw there surprised them. On the wall was 3 wanted poster with their faces on it and a starting bounty of 20,000 berries each. "Are you for real?" Rayleigh was at a loss for words as he looked at his bounty poster. He couldn't believe his eyes. His wanted poster was of him looking at the camera with a serious expression. "I look good." Roger laughed joyfully when he saw his wanted poster. His picture was of him putting his straw hat on his head with a goofy grin on his face. "Doesn't this mean that we are already being hunted?" Naruto groaned as he glared at his wanted poster in frustration. His poster picture was of him holding up a badly beaten pirate with a mean look that could kill. Whoever took that picture was really trying their hardest to get him killed. "Let's quickly get what we came from and leave this island," Rayleigh said, and the 3 of them agreed without hesitation and promptly left the area. However, they didn't notice the figure that was following behind them in the shadows. The 3 of them quickly found a secluded alley to escape from the unwanted attention. "Things aren't looking so good for us," Naruto said as soon as they rounded the corner. "A lot of bounty hunters will be gunning for us now. Even the stronger ones might decide to join in." Rayleigh frowned, displeased by their current circumstances. The worst scenario was finally happening. "We should get going before things become troublesome," Roger suggested. However, as soon as Roger finished speaking, a 4th voice interrupted their conversation. "Are you guys lost?" The three of them turned around as one to see a man standing at the entrance of the alley. He was an average-sized man with light skin, and dark red-colored hair tied in a ponytail, with an even fringe and two strands framing his face. The group of three immediately tensed up as soon as he took a step forward. "Who are you?" Roger asked with a chilling tone. The smile on his face nowhere to be seen. The atmosphere immediately felt heavy. However, despite their hostile attitude towards him, the man still smiled and said, "You can call me Spencer. I'm just an ordinary bar man working on this island. Also, there's no need to be suspicious. You guys aren't the first group of pirates with a bounty to come here." "If we are not the first, then why was everyone staring at us?" Naruto asked, not buying his excuse one bit. Roger and Rayleigh also nodded. "Well, can you blame them? You guys are a mysterious pirate group that no one has ever heard of. And yet you still managed to take down the infamous Gorge Pirates. Anyone will be curious about you guys. And I am no exception," Spencer explained. "Don't they understand that having a bounty brings a lot of attention?" "Well, what is it to you?" Rayleigh asked with one hand on the hilt of his sword. If Spencer was to give the wrong answer, he will immediately cut him down. However, despite knowing this, Spencer still smiled and said, "You guys don't know your way around this island, but I do. It would be unfortunate if you were to encounter the Marines or some bounty hunters. So I'm offering my help." Naruto and the other exchanged looks before huddling together to discuss. "I don't trust this guy," Naruto whispered, earning him a nod from Rayleigh. "Neither do I, especially with that innocent smile on his face. He seems okay," Roger shrugged nonchalantly. "Shut up." After a quick discussion, Rayleigh said, "We have nothing to lose. Let's just see where it goes from here. It won't be too late to cut him down later." "Okay." Naruto and Roger nodded without much suspense. Spencer patiently waited for them to finish their discussion. And not long after, the three of them break off from each other before Rayleigh turned to Spencer and said, "Lead the way." "All right, follow me," Spencer said before turning around to leave the alley. Naruto and the others followed behind him. Before they knew it, they had already walked out of town and were heading towards a cliff not far from the town. On the top of the cliff was a small bar. Naruto turned to Spencer when he saw the bar and asked, "Why the hell did you build a bar outside of town and on top of a cliff, for that matter?" "Why else? For people like you, of course. Now come on." Spencer laughed before leading them into the bar. When they entered the bar, they saw a few people drinking and eating in the bar, but they didn't seem to care about their presence. They only gave them a quick glance before looking away. Spencer greeted a few of the customers as he led them to the counter. "Boss, where have you been? I've been looking all over for you," the barman shouted as soon as he laid eyes on Spencer. Sorry, I ran into some newcomers in town, so I invited them over to the bar," Spencer explained before jumping over the counter. "Travelers." The man turned to Naruto's group of three seated in front of the counter. A look of surprise flashed across his face before he politely said, "Forgive my rudeness. My name is Taro. I handle the bar in the boss' stead." The barman introduced himself. Taro was a young man of average height. He has chestnut-shaped light hair and a pair of goggles on his head. "You look nothing like a barman," Naruto was quick to point that out. "Yeah, I get that a lot. But here in the Grand Line, where pirates dominates most of the seas, you can't afford to look weak," Taro laughed. "So what brings you guys to the Grand Line?" Spencer asked after he poured the three of them a glass of rum. "What makes you think that we are not from the Grand Line?" Rayleigh countered with a fierce look. However, Spencer wasn't mad that Rayleigh refused to answer his question. Instead, he shrugged and said, "A hunch. Also the fact that your crew just got its first bounty. Any pirate group worth their salts wouldn't have settled for less. So my guess is that you are a newly formed pirate group from one of the four seas that recently entered the Grand Line in search of treasure or adventure." "You are right. We came to the Grand Line in search of adventure," Roger admitted with a laugh before taking a gulp from his cup. Oi for him to get smacked on the back of the head from Rayleigh and Naruto. "Roger." Spencer and Taro laughed heavily at their action. "Well, there goes our plan," Naruto facepalmed. Since the plan was already ruined, There was no point keeping up with it anymore. Naruto ignored Roger's apologies and asked, "So where exactly are we?" "The island you guys are on right now is called Cactus Island due to the shape of the mountain. It's the second island recorded on the log pose after the Twin Cape," Spencer informed as he refilled their drinks. "If you guys came through the reverse mountain then you would have passed the light tower at the entrance of the Grand Line." "Well, that explains somethings," Rayleigh muttered to himself. Then, he looked at Spencer and asked, "Can you tell me about the situations of the Marines in the Grand Line?" "Not much, but there have been news of a few rookie Marines that have been taking the ocean by storm. I'll advise you to be careful out there," Spencer said as he poured Rayleigh another glass of rum. "Hey, Rayleigh, do you feel kind of funny?" Naruto asked as he examined the inside of his cup in confusion. "Did I drink too much?" He couldn't help but wonder as his vision suddenly turned blurry and he fell to the ground unconscious. "Naruto." Rayleigh looked at him in surprise. Did he had too much to drink? Come to think of it, he hasn't heard Roger's voice for a while now. Perplexed, Rayleigh turned to Roger only see him passed out on the counter as well. Rayleigh immediately understood what was going on and quickly reached for his sword. However, before he could draw his blade his body suddenly slumped over as he slowly lost consciousness. "Shit, I let my guard down." Rayleigh glared at Spencer as he lost consciousness. The last thing he saw was that annoying smile on his face. Spencer sighed in relief. For a moment there he thought Rayleigh was immune to his sleeping medicine. If it had been so, they would have had to put in a lot of effort to take him down. Once he made sure that Rayleigh and the others was unconsciousness, Spencer turned to the other inhabitants of the bar who had been watching in anticipation and shouted, "Men, tonight we celebrate." "Yeah. Hey, how long do you plan on sleeping, kid? Wake up, wake up." Naruto had a voice shouting into his ears accompanied by a carefree laughter. His eyelids reluctantly opened due to the insistent calling as he let out a low groan. His head hurt like he had a hangover from too much drinking. He moved a hand to rub his head to ease the pain, or at least he tried to do, until he realized that he couldn't move his arms. His eyes immediately snapped open. All traces of sleep vanished from it instantly as he looked down only to see himself tied to a ship's mast. "Welcome back, kid," a familiar voice said beside him, prompting Naruto to turn to his left to see Roger tied up beside him, and on the other side was Rayleigh, who had his eyes closed. "What happened?" Naruto asked. His memory was still a little hazy. The last thing he remembered was drinking a cup of liquor before everything blacked out. "We got captured by bounty hunters," Roger replied before gesturing with his head to the top of the mast at the ship's main sail. Naruto looked up to the sail where he saw a graffiti painted on it. The drawing was that of a vulture standing on a skull with its head held high and wings spread out. Naruto deadpanned when he saw the graffiti and said, "Yeah, the dark humor in that isn't lost on me." "Oh, you guys are awake," a voice said behind them, prompting the three of them to turn around to see Spencer walking out from the lower deck with the rest of the bounty hunters. Rayleigh's gaze hardened when he saw Spencer coming close to them with that same annoying smile on his face. "You weren't a bar man after all," Naruto shouted when he saw Toga walking beside Spencer, surprising the others that it was first thing he was concerned about. "No, I work part-time as a bar man," Toga said with a sheepish laugh. He wasn't expecting Naruto to accuse him about his occupation considering the situation they were in. "You have more things to worry about than that," Spencer said after getting over Naruto's outburst. It seems that the three of them still haven't realized what situation they were in. "What are you talking about?" Rayleigh glared at Spencer. There was something about his tone that gave him a bad feeling. "Don't look at me like that. I was generous enough to let you keep your sword. The least you can do is ask nicely," Spencer said while pointing at the sword on Rayleigh's waist, causing the others behind him to laugh. Whether he had the sword or not doesn't matter, since he wouldn't be able to use it either way. "Answer me before I gut you," Rayleigh threatened, not in the mood of jokes. Spencer shrugged helplessly at Rayleigh's attitude and said, "It's nothing serious. It's just that right now we are currently heading to a marine base nearby to cash in the bounty on your heads." "Wait, Marines?" Naruto's expression changed as soon as he heard those words. Spencer smiled when he saw Naruto's reaction and said, Let me tell you about the relationship between bounty hunters and Marines. The Marines place a bounty on a pirates they deem trouble. We bounty hunters are the ones that take on that job. We capture the pirates with a bounty and hand them over to the Marines in exchange for the bounty on their heads. Well, unfortunately for you, we don't plan on letting that happen, Roger laughed in a carefree manner. Spencer looked at Roger like he had just seen a great fool and replied, "I'd like to see you try." As soon as he said those words, a member of his group shouted from the crow's nest in a panic. "Captain, we've got trouble." "Trouble? Who the fuck is it?" "Captain, it's them. It's the Gorge Pirates." The whole ship fell into chaos as soon as he said those words. The Gorge Pirates. Oh shit, we are done for. I can't believe this is happening. We just finished celebrating our successful bounty hunt and now we are going to die. Oh no 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 no. The Gorge Pirates. That should be impossible. We took a different route so as not to encounter pirates or other bounty hunters. Or are they perhaps after them? Spencer sweated as he turned to Naruto's group of 3. When he saw the nonchalant look on their faces, he cursed them all to hell in his heart. No matter. What was done was done. In fact, this would be a huge opportunity for them. If they can capture at least one member of the Gorge Pirates with a huge bounty, they'd be set for life. With his thoughts in order, Spencer raised his voice and shouted, "Don't fear, men. This is a great opportunity for us. All the Gorge Pirates are already weak without their captain." Once he had their attention, Spencer pointed at Roger and the others before continuing. "If they can be defeated by a group we successfully captured, then we can also do the same." "Yeah. Captain is right. We can do this. This should be a piece of cake." The crew immediately cheered when they heard their captain's words. "Seems like you guys are in trouble," Rayleigh jeered at Spencer with a mocking smile. He wants to see how they get out of this situation. "It's none of your business," Spencer said through gritted teeth before walking away. He had more pressing matters to prepare for, so he didn't have the time to entertain Rayleigh. Rayleigh laughed at his retreating back, taking pleasure in their misery. "The Gorge Pirates, isn't that the group from before?" Naruto turned to Rayleigh with a quizzical expression. He couldn't see why the bounty hunters were so worked up over a group of weaklings. "Those guys must be back for revenge." Roger shook his head in pity. "It wasn't like it was going to make a difference. They are just begging to be beaten up again." "Hope they brought someone strong this time," Roger laughed. "Things might get exciting soon. The bastard that took my bounty picture must be on that crew. I want a refund," Naruto said in annoyance. He doesn't care what happens afterwards as long as he could change his bounty picture. They didn't have to wait long as the pirate ship soon arrived beside them. A plank was immediately used to connect the two ships and the Gorge Pirates flooded onto their ship, followed by a burly man with a huge frame holding a huge hammer almost as tall as him. Immediately the bounty hunters saw the man walking behind the group. They shrunk back in fear and horror. Their previous confidence nowhere to be found. "It can't be. That's the vice captain of the Gorge Pirates. The heavy hammer, Jaguar. What the hell is he doing here?" Vice captain of the Gorge Pirates, Heavy Hammer Jaguar. He got that nickname because he was known always carrying around a huge hammer that he uses to crack people's skull in. The Marines in this part of the water are afraid of him and would always make sure to steer clear of him. The Gorge Pirates became infamous because of him. He was even more feared than his captain. Since making his debut 4 years ago, he had amassed a bounty of 70,000 berries. But unfortunately for them, their pirate ship had encountered a Marine warship one day and their captain had been captured by the Marines during that battle. If not for that unfortunate incident, they would have already left this part of the sea by now. While the bounty hunters were looking at him in fear, Jaguar didn't seem to be interested in their group. Instead, Jaguar turned to his subordinate who looked he had been ran over by an angry mob and asked, "Where are the pirates that beat you guys up?" The pirate he asked happened to be one of the pirates that had been beaten by Naruto and the others. And as if that wasn't enough, his beaten-up and unconscious form had been added to the wanted poster of the blonde-haired kid. Because of that, he had become a laughingstock among both pirates and Marines. The pirate looked around before noticing the familiar faces tied to the ship's mast looking unbothered. Then pointed at the back of the frightened bounty hunters and said, There they are, Vice Captain. Those are the pirates that beat us up. Jaguar looked in the direction the pirate had pointed only for his expression to turn sour when he saw the three figures tied to ship's mast. He turned back to the pirate and asked with a chilling tone. Are you sure they are the one? They don't look like much. There was no way that a group of pirates that managed to beat down half of his crew would be captured by some no-name bounty hunters. If it wasn't for the newspapers and wanted posters saying otherwise, he would have never believed it. Yes, I am very sure. They are the ones, the pirate said through gritted teeth. There was no way he could forget their faces after the humiliation he experienced that day. Some of his crew members that were beaten up are still receiving treatments. Jaguar frowned when he heard the bitterness in his voice. Very well then, Jaguar said as he fixed his gaze on Roger's group before walking towards them. The bounty hunters immediately cleared a path for him, afraid of earning his ire. I think he's coming over here, Naruto whispered to the others when he saw Jaguar approaching them. Another trouble. He is huge, Roger exclaimed when he saw Jaguar's towering form. However, as he was about to reach them, a figure suddenly stepped between them. Everyone immediately shifted their focus to the figure. The bounty hunters panicked when they saw Spencer blocking Jaguar's path. Captain! Captain, what the hell are you doing? Captain, you are in the way, move. The bounty hunters tried to reason with their captain, but their words fell on deaf ears. What is the meaning of this? Are you planning to stop me from teaching those fools a lesson? Jaguar's tone turned frosty. He tightened his hammer as he glared at Spencer. If Spencer didn't give a good reason for interrupting him, he wouldn't mind destroying his entire crew along with the pirates. It wasn't like he planned on letting them go in the first place. He planned on killing everyone that had ever interacted with the pirates as a lesson to any other pirate crew out there that had designs on his crew. Despite his threatening tone, Spencer didn't back down. He looked Jaguar dead in the eyes and said, "These three are my bounties. You have no right to take them away. Grudge or no grudge, that has nothing to do with us bounty hunters." The whole ship fell silent as soon as Spencer finished speaking. But none of them was as horrified as the vulture bounty hunting crew. They felt like their captain had just signed their death warrant. Naruto and Rayleigh could relate with them in this regard. Spencer. Taro panicked when he heard Spencer's statement. He and Spencer have known each other since they were kids, so he knew how stubborn he could be. But he was hoping that just this once he'd let go of that stubbornness. As that's so, Jaguar frowned before he suddenly raised the hammer in his hand and brought it down on Spencer with a shout. Then die. Captain. Swoosh. Just as everyone expected Spencer's head to be carved in my Jaguar's hammer, Spencer unsheathed the sword at his waist and swung it at the hammer. Boom. A small shockwave occurred the moment the weapons came into contact with each other. Spencer blocked the attack, slowing down its momentum. But in terms of strength he was still inferior to Jaguar, and that fact was soon proven as Jaguar sent him flying with his hammer. Spencer spat out blood from the impact as he crashed into the railing of the ship, destroying it. With the amount of force put into the hammer, if he hadn't blocked it, his head would have shattered into pieces. Spencer. Tora ran up to Spencer's side, worried. He immediately checked him for injury. Apart from his hand going numb, he was fine. Impressive. You actually managed to block my attack, Jaguar said in admiration before shifting his attention back to Roger's group of three. Now, it's time for you guys to die, Jaguar said as he raised his hammer before bringing it down on Roger's head. Everyone watched with bated breath as the hammer descended. They had already witnessed what the hammer could do. Even when it was blocked, it could still exert enough force to blow a fully grown man off his feet. So against a bound target they could already imagine what would happen. However, when the hammer was a few inches away from Roger's head, he suddenly grinned and a loud clank echoed in everyone's ear. Clank. The hammer in Jaguar's hand was sent flying backwards as Rayleigh countered it with a swing from his blade. The crowd couldn't believe their eyes. Just when did Rayleigh got free? Not only that, but he had managed to force Jaguar back by countering his attack. Spencer had tried to do just that previously, but it ended up with him getting flung halfway across the ship. Just who was that guy? Before they could get over their shock, Naruto suddenly jumped out from behind Rayleigh and kicked Jaguar in the face with a roundhouse kick that sent him flung him off his feet despite his huge frame. The crowd behind him quickly made way before Jaguar crashed down on the deck. A small quake shook the ship as Jaguar created a dent on the deck. Everyone watching couldn't believe their eyes as they stared at Rayleigh and Naruto like they were some kind of monster. Not only had one managed to counter Jaguar's attack, but the other, who has a smaller frame, had actually managed to send Jaguar flying with a kick. "Who gave you the right to try and claim our captain's life?" Naruto questioned with a death glare causing everyone who saw it to shiver. "What the hell is going on?" Spencer couldn't believe his eyes. Maybe because of how he had easily captured them, he never bothered to consider how they had managed to defeat half of the Gorge pirates on their own. Not only was Jaguar's attack countered, but the man himself was even sent flying. When he turned his gaze back to the rope he used to tie them up, he noticed that the ropes had been sliced smoothly, which should be impossible since they were all bound. He subconsciously turned to look at the only swordsman of their group as he returned his sword back to its sheath. It was then that realized that if Rayleigh had wanted to, he could have killed him anytime he wanted, and he wouldn't have realized that he was dead. Taro also realized this. Had those three been pretending all this while? If so, then why? They could have wiped out their entire crew whenever they wanted. Jaguar. The Gorge pirates crowded around their vice-captain in worry. Right now they wanted nothing more than to get as far away from here as they can. If even their vice-captain could be sent flying, then what were they supposed to do? Despite their desires, their captain had different plans. "How dare the two of you? Men, get them. Kill everyone on this fucking ship," Jaguar ordered after picking himself up. Despite their inner thoughts, the Gorge pirates still picked up arms, and a full-blown battle between the pirates and the bounty hunters began. "The huge guy is mine, got it?" Roger grinned when he saw the group of pirates charging at them. "Do whatever you like," Naruto and Rayleigh said as they watched the group progressing towards them. As soon as the two groups met, all hell broke loose. Naruto and Rayleigh drill a hole through the battlefield, opening up a path for Roger to pass through uninterrupted. "Do you really think you can take me on your own?" Jaguar growled when he saw Roger confidently walking up to him. He was in a very bad mood right now. His reputation and image had been damaged by those two from earlier. Not only had one blocked his attack while forcing him to take a step back, the other had completely thrown him off his feet. How? Moreover, his men were being knocked out one after the other. If he didn't kill them now, it would be over for the Gorge pirates. "I am your opponent. You can call me Roger." Roger grinned, not bothered by Jaguar's hostile attitude, which only infuriated the man more. "I don't give a fuck who. Jaguar roared as he brought his hammer down on Roger's head. He missed the first time, but he won't miss a second time. Boom. "What? Impossible." Jaguar felt like he was going mad as he stared at the man standing in front of him with a huge grin. If the first two blocking his attack was already shocking enough, then Roger had just flicked his world upside down. He had put all of his attack into that last swing, and considering the size and weight of the hammer, even if Roger was to block it with his arms, it was have still left him with broken bones. But that didn't happen. Instead, Roger had effortlessly stopped the hammer mid-swing with only one hand, completely baffling him. Roger laughed when he saw the look on Jaguar's face. Just like Jaguar, if there was one thing Roger was proud of, it was his innate strength. "Big mistake," Roger said before throwing out a mean left hook at Jaguar's face. Swoosh. Bam. Roger's fist connected with Jaguar's face before smashing him head first into the ground. The impact of Jaguar smashing against the deck shook the entire ship and caused it to tilt a little, to sway a little, sending everyone stumbling on their feet. Once they all regained their bearing, they turned to the cause with varying expressions. Expressions like shock, disbelief, and mostly fear could be seen on the people's faces. The ship fell silent as they gawked at Roger standing tall over a knocked-out Jaguar that was foaming in the mouth. A few of his teeth had been knocked out by that punch. Vice Captain. The Gorge pirates were the first to snap out of their daze. They immediately lost the will to fight. All they felt right now was fear. Their revenge meant nothing to them anymore. Now they just wanted to get as far away from her as possible. Retreat. They didn't know who shouted it, but they immediately complied. They grabbed their fallen comrades and vice captain before rushing back to their ship. Roger and the others watched them do so without stopping them. The bounty hunters watched all of this happen with disbelief. The Gorge pirates had their intention of killing Roger and the others loud and clear for all to understand. They had even brought their vice captain to get revenge. The outcome wasn't the one that they were expecting. After their captain had been defeated, the Gorge pirates had shamelessly retreated without a second thought. "This isn't over. We'll be back," the pirate from before shouted as their ship sailed away. After the pirates left, they turned their attention back to the Vulture pirate group, causing them to shrink back in fear. "Now then, what do we do about you guys?" Rayleigh muttered, but everyone on the ship heard him loud and clear. Spencer's heart stopped cold when he saw Rayleigh's gaze directed at him. "Crap,